Salut, ça fait longtemps. Alors, bonjour, mes chers amis, chers collègues, mesdames et messieurs, cet endroit est chargé de souvenirs. Au XVIIIe siècle, deux armées se sont affrontées ici dans une bataille qui a changé à jamais le cours de l'histoire de ce continent. Lorsque la fumée s'est dissipée, les deux commandants, Wolfe et Montcalm, gisaient mourants, leur destin lié même dans la mort.
New France had fallen. British North America was born. It would have been easy, even predictable, to leave it at that. The usual scenario of conquest: the vanquished are assimilated, their language suppressed, their faith forbidden, their laws replaced. This is what conquerors have done for millennia. From the great deportation of the Acadians to the Durham Report, following the Patriot Rebellion, some deliberately sought to impose this model: assimilation, the usual logic of conquest. But in the end, this was not the path that Canada chose. And why? First, thanks to the resilience of Francophones, a resilience that was sometimes silent, often combative, but always determined to preserve a language, a culture, institutions, and identity. Second, out of pragmatism, the British authorities quickly understood that you cannot govern 70,000 inhabitants against their will in the long run, especially with unstable American colonies to the south. Thus, throughout our country's history, decisions have been made to build something different here, together. It hasn't always been a straight line. Progress has been made through tensions, compromises, and sometimes failures. But on several occasions, Canada has chosen a different path.
Initially practical, even self-interested, something remarkable emerged. Not a myth, not a miracle, but a growing commitment that coexistence could make us stronger, that we can build an identity which not only respects our differences, but also celebrates them. Un projet audacieux.
A bold project that two peoples, recently enemies, speaking different languages, practicing different religions, living under different legal traditions, could share the same country and build it together.
The Canadian philosopher Charles Taylor contends that people aren't blank slates, but that our identities, personal and national, are constituted through history. In his words, the past is sedimented in the present, and our choices are shaped by what came before. Our country was built on the bedrock of three peoples: Indigenous, French, and British. Long before the battle on these plains, long before the first French ships sailed up the St. Lawrence, Indigenous peoples were the original stewards of this land. They built nations, trading networks, and systems of governance that spanned the entire continent. The Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Innu shaped this land and were shaped by it. Then the French came. They built a new society adapted to the realities of North America, shaped by the river and forest, by trade with indigenous nations, and by the determination to survive and flourish in this land. When the British came, that civilization did not disappear. It endured, and now it thrives. La Confédération
The Confederation was born out of this history. One of its founding fathers, George Etienne Cartier, declared at the time that Canadians were of different races, not to wage war on each other, but to work together for their own well-being, living side by side like large families. This pact was renewed when Wilfrid Laurier governed a country that had once conquered its people. It was renewed with the advent of official bilingualism. It was renewed when Quebecers chose twice to remain within Canada, believing that this partnership, despite all its frustrations, deserved not only to be preserved, but also to be strengthened. The Plains of Abraham symbolize a battlefield, they do, but also the place where Canada began to make the historic choice to favor adaptation over assimilation, partnership over domination, collaboration over division. This foundation was imperfect. It excluded too many people. It was based in part on the dispossession of Indigenous peoples and the violation of treaties made with them. But this foundation was based on the fundamental idea that unity does not necessarily require uniformity, that we can share a country without conforming to a single identity, that our differences, honestly acknowledged and respectfully managed, are a source of strength. This choice resonates throughout our history. It resonates in the choices made by newcomers from around the world who have settled in Canada. It resonates in the choices made by each generation determined to continue building, not on blood or land, but on something more demanding and more enduring, a shared commitment to live together, to accept differences, and to seek the common good. And thanks to each of these choices, Canada has become richer, more inclusive, and more equitable.
What makes Canada a great country? It's a great country for everyone. It's the greatest country in the world to be a regular person. You don't have to be born rich or to a landed family here. You don't have to be a certain color or worship a certain God. Canadians believe in the value of every other Canadian, their boundless potential to make this great country even better. Our ancestors, despite their differences, believed in each other and in us. Now, there are long periods of history where these values can prosper unchallenged. Ours is not one of them. Our values must be fought for. That's what we are doing. That's what Canadians want. Canadians are up for it. Our history traces an arc of broadening inclusion from biculturalism to multiculturalism, from being British subjects to becoming Canadian citizens, from being two founding peoples to being many peoples living in true partnership with Indigenous peoples. From William Lyon Mackenzie King's social citizenship to Louis Saint Laurent's liberal internationalism, from Diefenbaker's One Canada to Pierre Elliott Trudeau's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Brian Mulroney's environmentalism to Justin Trudeau's pluralism and reconciliation. Each generation of Canadians has built a modern, progressive, liberal state that embraces the values of caring and sharing, of equity and fairness for all. Institutions make up the body of that progressive state, but our values are at its heart. Institutions, from the civil code to public health care, from modern self-government agreements to Parliament's recognition of the Quebec people as a nation. Values of inclusivity, fairness, solidarity, sustainability, and ambition. Canadians are inclusive. We know our country is stronger when everyone belongs, when newcomers are welcome, when minorities are protected, when Indigenous peoples are true partners. That commitment to inclusion was institutionalized, first in the Bill of Rights and then embedded in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It was manifest in our adoption of multiculturalism, first as policy and then as law. In the same spirit, the enshrinement into law of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples reflects our fundamental commitment to reconciliation and to respecting Indigenous peoples as equal partners in building our country together. And inclusion means going beyond the protection of rights to the commitment to creating a society in which everyone can flourish. That's why we introduced the Combating Hate Act, to preserve the freedom of people to practice their faith and culture without intimidation, harassment, or violence. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes veillent les uns.
Canadians look out for one another, especially in difficult times. This spirit of solidarity inspired the foundations of the modern welfare state in the aftermath of the Great Depression. It includes unemployment insurance, family allowance, and old age security. New institutional pillars of solidarity were added with the creation of the Canada Pension Plan and the Canada Health Act as well. I'm proud, you're proud, that we've expanded these foundations in recent years with the National Dental Care Plan, childcare services, the drug insurance plan, and the National School Food Program as well. In Canada, we are strongest when we stand together, when we look out for one another and ensure that no child, no family, no person is left behind. This spirit of solidarity and generosity helps define our identity as a nation.
Canadians believe that fairness includes equality of opportunity, so that every Canadian has a shot at a good and fulfilling life. And the foundation of this commitment is access of every Canadian to comparable public services, particularly education and healthcare. These commitments were institutionalized when equalization was first introduced in 1950 and then embedded in our Constitution in 1982. And by protecting services like childcare, dental care, pharmacare, we strengthen the sense of security that Canadians rely on every day. A strong and united Canada stands up for families and workers and protects those who are most vulnerable, whether they're a newcomer, a person with a disability, or a member of the two-spirited LGBTQI+ community. Now, friends, the advent of artificial intelligence will simultaneously challenge fairness, inclusion, and solidarity, while it creates enormous opportunities for how we live, work, and play. And these tensions can only be reconciled if AI works for all. AI can provide powerful solutions, better healthcare, better education, better government services. It can empower Canadians with new skills for more fulfilling jobs. But realizing that potential will require fundamental reforms to our education system, how we do skills training, and to our social welfare system. Our upcoming AI for All strategy will begin to tackle these challenges to maximize the potential of AI for all Canadians. The Développement durable assure
Sustainable development provides for equity between generations. Canadians are the guardians of a vast and precious territory. We've taken steps to protect it through international treaties such as the Acid Rain Treaty and the 2015 Paris Agreement, as well as through our ongoing progress in conserving our natural heritage, in line with our commitments made at the 2022 Montreal Conference. In the coming months, our government will implement ambitious new plans to accelerate sustainable development across the country, to reduce energy bills for families and businesses, and to protect Canada's natural wealth.
Canada is an ambitious nation of builders and explorers. We mapped this continent before the Americans had even left St. Louis. We built a transcontinental railway in 5 years, the St. Lawrence Seaway in 4. We created a healthcare system that became a model for the world. This government, Canada's new government, shares that ambition. We've already removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade, and we're catalyzing hundreds of billions of dollars in investments in nation-building projects. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade. And we're working to ensure that core Canadian capabilities, including in AI, in quantum, in cyber, and critical minerals, will maximize the economic benefit for Canadians of these new security imperatives. Now we need to execute fairly and fast. Les valeurs canadiennes.
Canadian values such as inclusion and equity and sustainability are not just abstract ideals, but they are practical guides that are integral to our identity. Our task is to draw inspiration from them to continue building in these revolutionary times. In moments like these, Canada must play two roles at once. First, it must be a bastion of security and prosperity for our citizens. We must defend our sovereignty, secure our borders, protect our communities, and build an economy that offers opportunities for all Canadians across the country.
That's why we're undertaking the strongest tightening of the criminal justice system in generations. It's why we're making the largest investment in defense in generations. It's why we're securing our borders through more CBSA agents and greater surveillance resources. And it's why we're building one Canadian economy and launching nation-building projects that will connect and transform our country. We will give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take from us. A core mission, while we're doing that, core mission of our government is to lower costs for Canadians. That's why on day one, we canceled the divisive consumer carbon tax. That's why we've cut income taxes for 22 million Canadians. It's why we've cut taxes for first-time homebuyers. It's why we reduced tolls on the Confederation Bridge and Atlantic Ferry fares. It's why we're launched, and we have launched, Build Canada Homes, to build affordable housing construction at a pace not seen since the end of the Second World War. This past fall, we launched the automatic federal benefits for up to 5.5 million low-income Canadians to ensure that our most vulnerable get the money to which they are entitled. We also made the National School Food Program permanent so that kids have the nutrition they need at school. We've started, as we mean to go on, with a relentless focus on improving affordability to help Canadians get ahead. I said we had to do two things. The first is to be a bastion. The second is to be a beacon, an example to a world that's at sea. In a time of rising populism and ethnic nationalism, Canada can show how diversity is a strength, not a weakness. In a time of democratic decline, we can show how rights can be protected and equal freedoms endure. And in a time of rising walls and thickening borders, we can demonstrate how a country can be both open and secure, welcoming and strong, principled and powerful. There are literally billions of people who aspire to what we have built: a pluralistic society that works, a public square that's loud, diverse, and free, an economy that delivers broadly shared prosperity, a democracy that chooses to protect the most vulnerable against the powerful. Now, Canada can't solve all the world's problems, but we can show that another way is possible, that the arc of history isn't destined to be warped towards authoritarianism and exclusion. It can still bend towards progress and justice. There you go. Nous ne faisons
But we don't have any illusions. The world is more divided, and more divided. New alliances are being built, and in some cases, old alliances are being broken. In this new era, Canada's leadership will be defined not only by the strength of our values, but also by the value of our strength. We're undertaking the most significant strengthening of our military and security capabilities since the Second World War. We have the resources the world needs. We have the talent to transform that potential into growth. And we have the ambition to meet the challenges of this new era. We're consolidating our strength within our borders, and we're strengthening our resilience by diversifying our partnerships abroad. We're doing that through a versatile approach that defends our values and advances our interests.
So let me return to where I began, where Canada began. 267 years ago, this ground was soaked with blood. Two empires had collided, one had prevailed, and the question was, what will come next? The answer that emerged slowly, imperfectly, not without struggle, but unmistakably, was cooperation, partnership, a shared future. That response was not inevitable. That response was chosen by British administrators who eventually saw the wisdom of cooperation, chosen by French Canadians who eventually committed to build within the new reality, chosen by the founders of Confederation who believed that two peoples could become partners in one country, and chosen by every subsequent generation who built on that foundation. The
traces of our past are anchored in our present, in our two official languages, in our federal system, in our growing understanding of the concept of belonging. We're now the guardians of this heritage, this legacy, and it's our responsibility to make it flourish. Since we have the opportunity to do so.
In this time of great consequence, we are choosing. We are choosing to work together to build one Canadian economy. We've made great progress over the past year. Now we have to redouble our efforts with the provinces and territories. We're choosing to find new markets and develop new partnerships. We've announced a dozen new economic and security partnerships across 4 continents in the last 6 months. More will come, all will deepen. We choose to build in solidarity with Canadian workers, creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying union jobs and investing in apprenticeships and skills training so that young Canadians can have the careers of tomorrow.
We're choosing to build Canadian resources using technology and workers at home. We will be our own best customers to build sustainably. because we know that dealing with climate change is both a duty, a moral duty, and also an economic imperative.
Build inclusive, in full partnership with Indigenous peoples, inclusively to ensure that AI benefits all Canadians, to respect diversity, to accept others, and to combat hate so that every Canadian feels free to be themselves and can thrive in the greatest country on earth. When we live our values, we grow as individuals and we build as a people. When we're kind, kindness grows. When we're united, unity grows. When we're Canadian, inclusive, fair, ambitious, Canada grows. Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
We are masters in our own home. This is our country. This is our future. The choice is ours.
To build a bright future, worthy of the ground on which we stand. We choose Canada. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
All right, that is Prime Minister Mark.